All right, we're live.
All right.
This could be a really abbreviated show, folks. Just letting you know that up front, because either Walt's going to puke or Pittsburgh's going to try to strike their revenge at me for being a Cleveland Browns fan and just suck all the bandwidth. I'm coming to you live from Pittsburgh. Walt's in his lovely man cave.
Barely alive.
Barely alive. And for those of you who are wondering, we're recording the LinuxInstall.net podcast. It's going to be abbreviated, and it's just going to be the Walt and I, because we didn't want to go 2 weeks without doing a podcast.
Yes.
So what you been up to, Walt?
In 2 weeks. Well, last week I got myself a new toy because, well, I am the self-proclaimed gadget guy. Picked me up one of these open Pandoras.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Really super cool. Totally unneeded. It was one of those, like, for 2 days I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I don't understand how I lived without it. And then after that I'm like, okay, I guess I didn't really need to get it, but it's still really super cool. Default installation runs Angstrom Linux and has a XFCE desktop, basically, with
Cool.
all your commonly used applications, Firefox, GIMP, LibreOffice.
Okay, wait a minute, back up. GIMP on something that small?
Yeah, amazing, ain't it?
So there's joysticks on it, for those who can't see it on the audio podcast. And it's really designed to be a little mini gaming system, right?
Correct. That is the original design. It runs all the emulators for basically all the systems, very, very well, I might add. But as a secondary thought, when they were brainstorming the use scenario, they put a full-size keyboard because it actually emulates Commodore 64, Amiga, Atari ST, all your old computers as well, so you need the keyboard. But being an open source hardware project, they also obviously went with an open source operating system. And some folks took some extra time to develop specific tools that bake in very well with the hardware. And obviously it's just standard ARM, so Debian, Gentoo, Arch, a couple more that I'm probably not thinking of right now, all have distributions that run on it. I just haven't had the time to go out and buy me SD cards to load them all up and try them out. The Debian, though, is probably on my forefront, just because it's easy. I'm familiar with it. The Arch is a little bit more of a side project. Gentoo, I don't think, has been touched in a couple of years, even though I'm sure it works okay. There's one other one, too, that I can't remember. But, again, it was like 2011 was the last time anybody really worked on it. So I figured Debian's current, and that'd be what I'd be interested in. But,
so, the recent shell shock incident that we talked about the last time we were together needs to be brought up. So, shell shocky, are you shell shock safe with any of those distros? Have they patched?
To the best of my knowledge, I haven't looked specifically, but I know there was a system update to the Angstrom distribution that.
Okay.
It's not quite an apt-to-get to where it updates the OS. They have two package installers. One is for you basically just unzip the operating system on an SD card, pop it in, and then it runs. So they have one that updates the core system that goes through and, if there's newer versions of whatever available, it grabs. And then there's a package installer where you get all of your applications from. And it tracks application updates. And all of those have been updated within like the last week. So I can't say 100% for sure, but because there were updates only about a week old, my guess is they did patch that.
That's good, because we don't want you to pick up a random stray variable assignment to rm-rf your stuff when you connect to the to the school Wi-Fi when you go into work.
Yes.
'Cause
So the
somebody
neat
decided
thing
to
is,
hack it.
right, I will be taking that with me to Ohio Linux Fest because it is a little bit bigger than a DS and it fits in my pocket. So as a portable Linux machine, not too bad. Average battery life I've been getting is about 10 to 11 hours,
That's pretty
which
good.
I think's pretty decent. The built-in Wi-Fi signal strength is not awesome, and I don't have it within hand's reach, but I do have one of those itty-bitty micro Wi-Fi dongles from my Raspberry Pi that, of course, is supported in Linux, so I plugged it in and it works just fine. I get easily twice the bars for signal strength and more than double the download speeds using that. So I will most likely just keep that plugged in because it's so little micro you don't even know it's plugged in for the most part. Very impressed though. I mean, enterprise connectivity works out of box. Most game systems and stuff you can't connect to enterprise. The
Right.
LibreOffice running on a little ARM full version. I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. The install is kind of funny. The built-in Wi-Fi, it'll eventually complete, but it didn't do so good. So they tell you either download the SD card from your real computer, or if you have the external, do it that way. So it was 340 some meg, which for an ARM, install is actually pretty huge. They had to specifically compile some Java libraries to support the features in LibreOffice. But once you get it all set up, I mean, it takes a couple seconds to open, but you're running.
So you're going to be taking all of your notes in LibreOffice down at Ohio Linux Fest.
We're going to give it a try. I've been using Pigeon to chat, and the keyboard's different than like my Zaris or any of my other little handhelds, so it took a little while to figure it out. The number keys, I can hold it up for the camera for everybody else, but the number keys are across the top instead of with the rest of them. And in the new Pyra that will be coming out to replace this unit, that was one of the big complaints, is they're going to put all the keys together along the bottom, which will help a little bit. This device was meant to be used as a game system, so it would open up fully. I like it to use it as a laptop, but there's no hinge click to do it as a laptop.
Oh, okay.
So it just kind of floats there, and every now and then it'll snap back on its own because I breathe too heavy. The new one has 2 click spots, one laptop and then one full open, and that hinge is actually available for this model. Because again, it's an open source platform, so a lot of the parts are the same. The battery is going to be the same, things like that. So I might do a little hacking on it to customize if it's something I think I'm going to use on a regular basis. But again, it's more.
Are we taking bets on that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's more toy. Everything that my phone could do, everything it does, and I have it in my pocket all the time too. So.
Cool.
But neat gadget. I mean, and again, for the learning experience, just to read about the community around the device, the planning of an open source project that had to be put through. The little bit of a personal learning curve on how the different system works and what are some of the benefits of the way they do things versus a standard desktop install, for example.
Right.
It's cool. And I got a good deal. I got a good $100 less than, actually almost 200, I'd say, all said and done, than new, so wasn't horrible.
Very cool.
So, yep. So we did a little of that, and then we talked a little bit last time about the XFCE desktop and how Debian did not choose them to continue forward as their default.
Yeah.
And I was.
You posted to me something about that. Was there something more that's come out since then, or?
Well, funny enough, I don't know if that article specifically fueled the conversation or allowed other people to start talking, I don't want to say negatively about the project, but pointing out some of its lack of updates since 2012 and not, and I shouldn't say updates, major releases. There's been patches and new features added, but no major versions released. That a lot of individuals are already planning a replacement for it. Most of them prefer Mate, it would seem at this point, or Mate, depending upon who's talking about it. Which is hilarious. But excuse me, food stays in. I thought it was really interesting that all of a sudden, within 2 or 3 days, I read 4 or 5 different articles of people saying XFCE is on its way out. The new it doesn't need a Wayland. There's no Wayland support even started, and at least most of the other desktops have something running. In fact, Fedora just came out with their test run with GNOME 3 running on it.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of stuff works already. It was a pretty good alpha release, I think they're calling it. But so I kind of got a little worried, and I actually started testing out a couple of different desktops too, thinking, well, if that's the way things are going, maybe I got to give it up and see what else is out there. I tried GNOME 3. I just can't do it. It's okay. I could probably live with it, but just not the way that I work.
I'm really liking Cinnamon, but Cinnamon is really just GNOME 2 with some extra eye candy.
Right. And
but I
the
really like
development
it.
on that hasn't been as accelerated as the other desktops either, from what I read.
Yeah. I don't know. He's gotten a lot of press. The Mint guy's got a lot of press, and I think they got themselves overcommitted.
No, that could be.
And I think that's why, it was because it was strong out of the gate, and then I agree, it's kind of sloped off. I'm not going to say they aren't doing anything, but they slowed down considerably from when they started.
Right, and if you look at the major distributions, with the exception of Linux Mint, it's not one of the officially supported desktops. You can get it through a repo or something, but there's no spin like there are on all the other ones. So, that again.
Now, is there spins for Mate or Mate, whatever we're saying?
Right. I'm going with Mate, Bill.
I'm still going with Mate too, but I haven't. You've obviously been looking at this recently. I haven't looked recently. Is Mate now supported across most of the distros?
Yes. Yeah. Ubuntu, the 14.10, it's an officially recognized real spin now. Obviously, Linux Mint supported it for a little while. Their Arch has it in their regular repos instead of the community.
Right.
So it's actually gaining a lot of ground.
Cool.
But so at this point, if for some reason XFCE said, "Oh, we're gonna melt your computer if you don't uninstall me tomorrow," I'd probably go with Mate. It seemed to be the most comfortable at this point. Again, it's meant low resource. Their the LXDE replacement, what is it the LDQT or LXQT or something like that?
I don't know.
Where it's going to use the QT programming. It looks very promising, but it's still got a little work to be done. So I wouldn't necessarily pick that right now. But it has a lot of potential too, as being the new lightweight desktop that everybody would just use. LXQT, that's what it is, .org. But so that was my Linux for last week, a little bit this week, as we discussed. Between I had some issues, hurt back, sick, my cat's sick, bought a new car, random baby stuff. Wasn't a whole lot of playtime.
Yes. I spent most of my time over the last 2 weeks rapidly trying to finish my slides, which I didn't realize were due Monday. So I had to crank through and get my slides produced, and Um, I like LibreOffice most of the time. This is going to be interesting. I mean, it's going to work. I'm not worried about that part. But it's interesting, the interface differences between Office, like PowerPoint, and LibreOffice's presentation application are off by just enough to be really annoying. And it does additional things, but there isn't a real good tutorial to tell you how to do the additional things anywhere. It just mentions that you can do stuff that supposedly you can't do in Office. But I'm sticking with it. I'm going to be talking at Ohio Linux Fest. I can't talk about Linux on a Windows laptop. It just doesn't feel right. I have to do this.
I would body tackle you and make sure that didn't happen.
Right. Although I'm sure a few people are going to do it on Macs, but it really needs to be done on Linux.
Yeah.
They can at least fake us out and quickly reboot and be on Linux instead of Mac. But
right.
So I'm going to do the presentation off of my Linux laptop, which has been fighting me tooth and nail to figure out why all of a sudden I can't do wireless networking. It is not drivers. It's not the kernel. I have no idea why, and this is why I have hated this stupid network manager application. I've hated it since it came out, and it still continues to be the bane of my existence because it sucks ass when something isn't working. There is no place for it to log. It doesn't log errors. It doesn't say couldn't do blah. I'm currently getting an error when I go into it and try and edit certain fields that it can't find the UUID null, but I can't find anywhere in the configuration where something isn't configured. A. B, I'm still struggling to figure out what the hell the UUID is for my network card, for my wireless card, or for the wireless interface, I should say, because the wireless card and the built-in physical, the wired connection are on the same chip. So, but it, Network Manager doesn't see any configuration for the hardwire either, but that works fine. So I can't go in, I can't do anything. It doesn't let me turn on or off the interface. It won't let me turn on or off the wired connection either. It doesn't show the configuration for the wired connection. But if I run all the iwconfig commands, I can get it to list all the access points I know are at my house. It lists all the equipment that it can see. So it's definitely, it's not just it knows because of where I'm at, because I even disconnected it just to make sure it wasn't pulling this information some other way. The only way it could be doing it is through that wireless card, and it works fine. iwconfig shows me all the stuff. So I'm at this point where I kind of need to go in and learn how to, well, I need to figure out what the problem is. I'm really close to, I tried doing a repair on it, and that didn't fix that. It was kind enough to tell me there's nothing wrong with your file system. There are no packages incorrectly installed. Well, that's great. I kind of already knew that. How about fixing the wireless connection or the wired connection so that I can use Network Manager with it? I tried to uninstall Network Manager and reinstall it. And Manager, it has so many freaking dependencies that I can't uninstall it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's basically baked in at the core level.
And I hate it. I hate it. It sucked when it came out. It's not gotten any better. It doesn't seem to do anything more. I don't understand why everybody thinks that it works wonderfully, because it does stuff like this. This isn't the first laptop I've had it where all of a sudden I got an update and it just decided it wasn't going to see my network card anymore.
That's what I was going to ask. So you're still on Mint, same distro, but just an update rolled along and all of a sudden it quit working.
Not even not even a real update, just patches.
Right. So you didn't go from like a 16 to 17. It was just a patch somewhere along the line that hosed it.
A 17 patch, a patch for 17, just hosed it.
Hmm.
There's other people talking about it, and the way they all fixed it was to reinstall it. I'm like, I don't want to reinstall.
And then not do the patch, or did the reinstall then fix it with a patch?
The reinstall and then reapplying all the patches after you've reinstalled fixes it. So it's
So was
something
it
in the package that effed it up, but I can't
right?
really get it to go back packages either.
Right. Yeah,
So
because you did a clean. I remember you were saying you did a clean install so that your SSD started to work. So it's not like you upgraded a couple of versions and there's some old junk laying around. Because I've had that before, where unfortunately you do need to do a clean install once in a while.
right, and I did because I wanted to switch back to my SSD. There was nothing wrong with my SSD. It always functioned fine. I just was an idiot and installed it to the spinning
Right.
disk. That was my fault. That had nothing to do with Linux Mint. I reinstalled it onto the SSD when I did 17. But I had tried 17 originally, and it had issues. So they patched something, so those issues went away. And my laptop had been working fine. And I said, okay, go ahead and do updates, do updates, do updates. And I hadn't disconnected it because I was at home. I wasn't needing wireless at my desk.
Hmm.
And then I eventually disconnected, went to watch a movie with my son, and surf the net. And I get over to sit on the couch to sit with him to watch this movie, and wireless doesn't work. And I hadn't noticed it because I hadn't used it. So I have no idea what patch broke it.
Hmm.
So I can't just go back and uninstall that patch.
And have
I
you
know it's been
tried?
like this for about a month now, so
And have you tried? Well, obviously, like if you did a live distro or something, it would work because it doesn't have whatever that patch was at.
right.
Yeah.
Fine. Now I've been tempted to reinstall on the partition of the spinning disk that I was on before because I'm no longer using that. And everything works, so I don't need anything. I haven't left anything on that disk that I might need.
Hmm.
So I'm debating reinstalling on that other disk and just seeing if it works, applying all the patches and seeing if that works. And then if it does, then I'll just reinstall on the SSD.
Well,
It's just
if it does, you could almost just DD it over instead of having to do all the work again,
That's
unless
true.
the SSD install does something special.
No. Then there's a trim package to make sure
Yeah,
it
but
does the trim
isn't that?
correctly.
I thought that was baked in now, though, at kernel level, if I remember
Oh, is
right.
it?
I
Okay.
think so. Because I know earlier versions you had to install it after the fact, but I think
Yeah.
it's just default now. Because I got this,
Okay.
I got the same thing. I got SSD running in my Linux desktop, and yeah, it's just all built in. I just run it once a month or whenever I remember.
I made a cron task.
Yeah, I don't keep my machine on all the time.
Oh.
All right, or I would.
Well, with modern cron,
I
whenever
know,
you boot
but
the
then you
machine,
turn the
it'll
machine
automatically.
on and it goes, "Oh, look at all the crap I missed," and then you're like, "Yes, but I'm trying to do this right now, not those 100 things you're catching up on."
So
So if your wireless isn't working, what are you on right now?
right now, I would be on my super cool Chromebook,
Nice.
which works like a dream, proving that Linux is a great desktop operating system,
Yeah, man.
as long as you let Google manage all the patches for you.
Right. Yeah. Did you? I meant to ask you before, but I'll ask you now. Did you get a chance to try any of the Android apps that they've ported now to Chrome?
I went to try to do that, and then I got distracted
Right.
by the fact that I had to finish my slides by
Right.
yesterday.
That was my assumed answer, but yeah, I mean it's neat. I mean now that you have all my old equipment and I don't have a Chrome anything to work with anymore, I will be asking you, how would it have worked if I kept the machine?
Well, you and I have talked about this before because you were pretty impressed with this. Because I can't do wireless on my regular laptop, have been forced, more or less, to use the Chromebook when I want to go somewhere else with it. And it's actually gotten to the point where I really don't want to lug my laptop with me
Mm-hmm.
because the battery life on this Chromebook is just incredible.
Yeah.
Really incredible. I can sit all day. Well, I did. I sat and watched football on Sunday and had the Chromebook with me and did wasn't even 50% power done
Yep.
later. And was like, oh. Now, it won't replace necessarily any of my work PC. It won't replace my personal PC or work PC for a lot of things. But for most of what I do,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the net, and like this, this Hangouts working every bit as good or better than the laptop, the big, 32 gig or 16 gig, I think 16 gig laptop I have. This
Right.
is, again, just working fine. I can open 20 or 30 tabs on this 4 gigabyte Chromebook and not use all 4 gigs of memory. But amazingly, if I do the same tabs on my 16 gig Core i7 laptop, I use a lot more than 4 gigs.
Yes.
Don't understand why that works that way. We could blame it on 32-bit versus 64, I guess. I don't think that's the case.
No. Yeah, I mean, I use until I got my MacBook Air. I use that as my day to day because that you charge it once a week maybe, and for what I would do, like you said, watching videos, surfing the internet, checking emails. I mean, it does everything you need it to do without any worry of anything. So
Yeah.
it's a neat machine, and I'm glad that you'll be using my old one. But I couldn't justify having I don't know 7, 8, 9, 10 laptops at the time. So now at least I'm only down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, somewhere around there. Got a couple more I got to get rid of now.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to. I wish, I live in a really good school district, so I'm not complaining about the school district, but I do kind of wish they would invest in something like these Chromebooks because I think the kids would really benefit from them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so cheap. I really do think the school district could justify it.
Oh yeah, I mean we try to do laptop carts all the time, and they just whatever we do for faculty because we bulk purchase. Let's just say 3,000 machines. So because of the volume, we get a pretty good price, so they can put together a couple of 20 or 30 machine laptop carts. But still, at a third of that cost, regular without bulk discount, you'd have these Chromebooks that could auto update. Every student would log in and have their own customized whatnots. We may have lost Brian, and he's actually controlling the show from his end. He is in a hotel, and while we were chatting earlier, he did drop off once before. So we'll give it a few minutes, and if he doesn't come back, I told him I would fake being sick. So one of us isn't broadcasting.